creating your interactive e-card, what this is going to require is, in essence, a basic animation on the timeline. And then we will put a clickable object on the stage and then show you how to make that object navigate to a different place in time. So the beginning of this is we need the opening beginning screen. Now my demo that I'm going to work on is going to have ugly graphics because I'm not interested in making something better. I would encourage you, as you're working on it, to at least get something in, but don't obsess too much about making really good looking artwork right now, because we're more concerned about the interactivity. Then you can go back and finalize and clean up and make your artwork all nice and pretty, which is what we'll look at shortly. So with this, I'm going to start out, and I am going to bring in the beginning, like intro part of my animation. So I'm going to make a basic movie clip, apply a tween to it so it just goes on stage. So it's going to start out and say hi. So I've created some artwork, hit F8, give it a name. Okay. Now I'm starting with it off screen here. I can right click on it, create motion tween, drag it up so it now comes on screen. Now it says hi.
Aww.
Hi. And with that, I'm going to modify it a little bit so it starts out slow and goes faster. But I'm not really that excited about the speed of it, so I'm going to shorten it up just a little bit because it's just taking too long. So I want it to zip on screen. So it says hi. And now after this, what I'm going to want to have happen is I'm going to have a button show up once my word comes on screen. And I want to click on that button to then experience or view the full animation of my card. And then my animation will stop at the end of that, and I'll put a nice affirming, heartwarming, positive kind of message on the whole thing. So currently this comes in and says hi. Now, there are two ways you can go about building something like this. Is you can build your different animated pieces and then go back and add in your controls, put in some buttons and things like that, which is what I would recommend because it's easier. Then you put the buttons in, then you can just start making them navigate to the different things. So I'm going to want a new layer that will start after this. And I can put in a keyframe for that. And I am going to just put a basic, some words on screen, and then animate them around for what would be the main body of my animation. Now you could just draw a box or a circle, you could draw a person, you could have Darth Vader slicing the turkey with his lightsaber like we saw, which was, I thought, really funny. I might have to send that to my kids because they would appreciate that. So I've turned this into a movie clip. I'm going to create a tween for it. But it won't start out on screen here. Want to animate it down, and then we'll animate it off. Bring it up. So hi, then my primary message goes over, comes up, disappears. So now I have some animation occurring for the main body of that. Now I'll generate my message on another layer. Notice one object per layer when you're animating. It's really important to keep that in mind. Some programs, when you put different objects on screen, it automatically keeps them all in separate layers, so you don't have to worry about doing that. So then when you go to animate, they're already separated. That's one of the things that, say, people who are used to working in After Effects and some other programs like that, they're used to it already separating everything onto its own layer, so they don't run into the problem where Flash scolds you about putting more than one object on a layer when you're trying to animate. And now I have my nice heartwarming, affirming message. I'll just even give it a little warmer color so it just feels good. So now I have the basics of my card in place. I can save it. I can see what it looks like. Hi comes in, my message goes across, and then as we can see now, there's a lot of movement and there's not a lot of control over what's happening with it. So now what I need to do is I need to add in some buttons to provide some control to my project. The next thing we need to do is add one more layer. This is going to be your buttons layer. And my first button that I'm going to work with, I'm going to actually use a rectangle. And I'm going to draw a shape. This will be the start of my button. And we are going to use that magical third symbol type that we haven't looked at before. Not a graphic, not a movie clip, but the actual button symbol. Movie clips can function as a button, but the button symbol gives you really easy access to creating nice little rollover effects and other pretty niceties, the eye candy that makes a button behave like a button. And now that I have this rectangle in place, I'm going to select it. Now I didn't put any words on it. I didn't say click me. I didn't say play. I'll take care of that in a moment. So I just drew a rectangle. This is the base part of my button. And a button can be anything. This is one of the cool things about working with Flash, building interactive content, is anything can be a button. And that's actually a whole lot of fun as you put all kinds of controls everywhere. Now convert it to a symbol, and oh, sorry, I clicked on the wrong spot there. So I will choose button as my symbol. Hit OK. And now if I double click on it, I will notice that I'm now in symbol editing mode. It does not have the movie clip or graphic icon. It has my button icon, rectangle with a little finger pressing on it. If I look in my timeline has up, over, down, and hit. It now has button properties there. So with this, I have my up state. And if I just hit F6 for my over state, so I could make when I roll over it, it gets a background of yellow. When I press down on the button, I want that yellow not to be yellow anymore. I want it to go to purple. And the hit state is the area that makes this button active. The hit state does not have to be the same as the artwork for the button. And we'll look at this. And if I don't do anything, the artwork becomes the de facto hit state. So if I say F6 for hit state here, I can choose any color because I'll never see the hit state. The hit state is the area that makes my button active. So my button, it will start out blue-gray. I roll over it, it turns yellow. Push down on it, it goes purple. And then this is the area that makes that button active. We'll modify that shortly. So if I look at my project, we'll see the button sits there, and I can see I roll over it, press down on it, roll over it, press down on it, and it's active inside that rectangular area. Now, going back into that button, if that hit state were only half of it, or even smaller, this, now if I run it, here, no rollover, no rollover, no rollover, and boing. Now I get rollover. So the hit state is that. So you can actually have a little bit of fun with that, where the hit state isn't necessarily the artwork for the button itself. Because the artwork may be bigger than what you want the actual active area for the button to be. Or the artwork may be smaller than the area you want to be active for the button. Say I want to allow the user to be really sloppy with their hitting of it, so I make a big area. This is, now this falls under the guidelines of, say, like, when you start thinking about designing interaction for touch devices where you don't have a precise pointer like a mouse with a cursor. If you're on your phone on a touch screen like an iPhone or an Android phone and trying to press, sometimes the buttons are so small you have to use the side corner of your pinky finger to try to click on something. That's not good UI design. The button's too small. So now if I run this, I'll see that, which if we position this so it's in the same kind of left and right, we can see as soon as I cross here, the button's active, even though I'm not really over the button. So I made a larger hit area than the button. But when the hit area is smaller than the button,
What if you don't have a hit area?
then we have to kind of guess to, there it is, that little square. But if I neglect to define any artwork for my hit area, the hit area, is now dead. No, if you don't start out with the hit area and just leave it empty, like this, then the hit area is the button itself. So if you don't add in, so there is no hit area, then the artwork for the button becomes the hit area. So for now, I can just leave it like that. That's fine. I'm going to add another layer. And on this layer, then, I'm going to have some text. On this, it will be play. Now that's a little bit small, so I'll take that text and make it a little bit bigger. And I don't like that font, so I'll choose a better font. And let's see, we're always supposed to choose things like Marker Felt or Comic Sans or other high quality fonts that haven't been demonized and vilified for their qualities. Now, if I put this here, the red is here, and we can see, but it really would be kind of nice if it changed color like the rollover. So if it starts out like this, when I roll over it, I don't want it to stay red, so all I need is a keyframe. And then I can click on my text, and instead of being red, I want it to go bright green. So it looks, we can tell it's glowing. I've rolled over that, it's glowing. And then the down state, but I'll change now my text to, so down is like I've pushed down on it so it gets darker. Okay, I need to make my red darker. It's not dark enough. There. So now I have a rollover effect with my button, so it starts to behave like an actual, real, bona fide button. You may also find there are times where you will want to have, I can add to it. So now if I roll over it, so you can even be more obnoxious, as you see.
Could you make those things like go in
Now the question comes up, can I make these marks animate? And the answer is absolutely, and that's where I was going to next. But you beat me to it, which is perfect. So if I want to make these animate, I can now just simply turn those into a movie clip. Notice Flash remembers whatever button or symbol type you created last. I made a button. It now it's like, hey, are you going to make another button? But no, this time I'm going to make a movie clip. And this will be my running dashes here. Now I'm going to go into my running dashes. And in the interest of time, instead of doing, what I would like to do is frame by frame animation, so I make it look like they're running. Actually, I will, because it's just more fun that way. So let's see, go back, choose my brush, F7, and just do it a and somehow I just hit tween accidentally. Okay, so we can see that they wiggle around a little bit. Now if I go to my button and watch it, I can see that now they animate when I roll over them. So not only do I get a basic change of color, but I also am getting further visual eye candy. And this is one of the things that you can do, done subtly. It can be a really rich experience. Done poorly, it's obnoxious as all get out. I will leave it up to you to use the technology responsibly instead of inappropriately. There's a lot of Flash haters out there, and that's one of the multiple reasons why they hate Flash is because it has this gratuitous, superfluous, wasteful animation. But there's plenty of other Flash devotees that love it for that precise reason. They like time-wasting eye candy. They want it to look pretty and be fun versus be boring but usable. So it's up to you to figure out the best choice. So, and notice that at that point, I was three symbols deep. Scene one, or 2 symbols deep. Then I had my play button, then I have my running dashes symbol. So I have timeline and a timeline and a timeline. That's okay. I'll save this. So now I've made my play button, but I don't want that play button to show up until we get to the end of high. And then we'll put it, in a usual place. You would put it kind of down beneath your content. That would be a normal place to put it. And I don't need that play button to stay on screen any longer. So I just need it for right there. It'll be high. So now that I've done this, what I need to do is start adding in some actions. I need to add in some interactivity to it. I can add a layer and start typing in the code myself if I know what I'm doing. If I don't know what I'm doing, I can use the snippets. And the snippets are also a really good way to start learning how to do that basic interactive programming necessary for building rich, engaging experiences. To make something play with code, it needs to have a name. Not a library name. It needs a name of the copy of the object on stage. So my play button right here needs an instance name. So this particular instance, because remember, I could have multiple instances of the same object. So if I did, I would want to know what's going to happen when I press on a particular one. So this one, I am going to call this one play underscore BTN. It's recommended that instance names always start with a lowercase letter. Okay. Now, if I go under code snippets with that selected, that instance is selected, we can see that's reflected in the properties. Timeline navigation. what I can do is we have a couple different options of what we could choose. We will be using stop at this frame momentarily. Actually, we might even put that in now so we can see it happen. And then click to go to frame and stop, click to go to frame and play. We're going to use a variation of that shortly. I think I'm going to first start out with the stop at this frame though. So if I click on the snippet I want, click on the brackets to view it, then if I click here under insert, it gives me that code. It gives me that little animation of the code coming in. We can see it added an actions layer. You can see that with the little A here. And actions are under Window, Actions, Option F9 on Mac, Alt F9 on, or no, just straight F9 on Windows. I don't know why the option is on the Mac one, but it is. And that is the code for causing my Flash to stop at this frame. STOP, parenthesis, close parenthesis, semicolon. That's it. The lines in gray are a comment. That's part of the instructions that the snippet puts in to help you understand what the code is doing. So if I save and preview my card, we can see hi flew in, play showed up. We get the nice little active squiggles around it. I think that's way better than just a color change rollover. That's way more fun. And then I can hit play, and play doesn't do anything yet, so we need to now add in its functionality. Click on play, go to snippets, and if I look here, do we see what the code looks like? So this is going to give me some code, and currently we're going to have to change it a little bit because it will send it to, it looks like frame 5. Now after you insert a snippet, it puts this over here. If I click here, I can get into my code right away. Play button is now listening for a click, and when I click on it, it calls this ugly named function. Here's ugly named function that says go to and play, and it has the number 5 in here. That's what frame number it's going to go and play. But I want it to play right here, which is frame 12. So if you have a hard time figuring out when you look at the numbers, especially as your numbers get bigger, and the divisions, and you're like, what frame number is it? Look down at the very bottom, and it shows it to you down there at the bottom, 12. So if I go back to my action, change this 5 to a 12, and now it will play. So if I test my movie, hi comes in, click play, primary message, and we can see it went back and looped. So what I need to do at this point, this goes, this goes, this goes. At have a wonderful day, I need it to stop. So I can click at this frame, and I believe if I go to the snippet and say stop at this frame and insert, it inserted a keyframe, and if we look at the code there, it says stop. So now if I play this, I now have a working card. If I want to replay it, I need to add another button. So I could reuse my play button and then write the word again under it, and then I could have it go back to frame 1. So I could do that. And I would challenge you to try and incorporate that into your project. I will demonstrate it up here in a little bit, but in the meantime, I want you to try to do it on your own.